Good morning. It's about 7 o'clock in the morning here on Wednesday, November 6th, 2024. I woke up this morning. It was like 46 degrees outside. And that's not Celsius. You might think that's Celsius. It's not. That's, oh gosh, let's do the math here. So just subtract 32. That's the freezing point in Fahrenheit. So that's 10. And then I think it's you divide by 9 and multiply by 5 or something like that. So it's about 5, degrees Celsius. So, dew, fog. We had beautiful fog. There's still some fog out there, or some mist over there. There's some beautiful mist. This whole little area, I'd call it a valley because I can see the changes in elevation now. When I first came here, it seemed flat as a pancake, but now I can kind of see the changes in elevation. This little valley was filled with a morning mist, which I think is absolutely beautiful. And moved the cows here. I was planning on moving them last night. I didn't get to it. They had plenty of grass. I come here this morning and they did not overeat the grass at all. In fact, they ate it the way I'd like it to. There's so much grass here in this row compared to last row. I think the next 4 or 5 rows probably are going to be like this. Just beautiful, beautiful rows of grass. Bermuda grass is back like there never was a drought. The goatweed is dying everywhere in my pasture. In fact, in the southern part of my pasture down there where the sheep are, the goatweed's all brown and losing its leaves. And down here, it's like something came through and ate all the leaves off the goatweed. I don't know what that could have been, but the goatweed's just dying. Just not having a good day. The reason for the mist. I was going to tell you this. If you're driving through farming communities, you'll notice that some areas have mist and some areas don't. Okay? And that mist is caused by an excess amount of water in the air. Where does that water come from? Well, it comes from the ground. Right? And so something is pushing that water into the air, and when the air cools down, the water forms tiny micro droplets. That's the mist that you see, right? A certain amount of water can be absorbed by air at pretty much any temperature above freezing. And when the temperature drops, the amount of water that can get stored in the air drops as well, So, the water in the air over healthy pastures is higher. It's a little bit more humid over healthy pastures, because what the plants are doing, how they get their energy and the nutrients they need, is they're sucking water out of the soil, and then they have too much water. They need to get rid of some, and so they expel that water through their leaves, right? That's called transpiration, right? The water's going through the plants. And of course, the plants are taking some of that to create sugars, and they're doing some other things with it. But what they're trying to do is get those nutrients out of the ground, right? Transpiration, as opposed to evaporation. Evaporation is when the water is in the ground or sitting on top of the ground and just goes straight into the air. No plants make use of it, right? And so if you read about how to, irrigate your pastures or your farms, they're going to talk about transpiration, evaporation, and that kind of stuff, because the goal is to get the water in the plant. The goal isn't to just make the dirt wet for a while, right? And so they talk about when to irrigate, what kind of weather conditions you want, and how to kind of anticipate when they're going to grow the most, all that kind of stuff, So there's a whole science to it. I looked into irrigating pasture, and I found out that's an entire science that's been very well developed. All kinds of very interesting experiments and theories and practices that people do. Look at number 10. Number 10 is just plain fat. This is that tail that Greg Judy was talking about. That's the tail you want to see on your animals. That's really a sign the animal's fat, right? The animal has excess fat. That's probably more fat than she needs to make healthy calves. But number 10 is just a monster here in the pasture. And I remind you that if you read Greg Judy's books, he did the rotational grazing thing with limited success, and then he got South Pole. He replaced his herd with South Pole, and that's when things really started taking off, right? So there's a synergy, there's a codependence between the animal and the pasture, And just having good grass is not enough. You need animals that can actually use that grass and grow and get fat. So the Angus breed, the Hereford breed, they're good breeds, but those are breeds that are meant to be fed. And then you have the South Pole, and there's several other breeds that just do well on pasture. You know, they just do perfectly fine on pasture. The what are they called? Longhorn or Piney Woods. I'm not sure which ones these are. They're a good animal for pasture too. The problem is they just don't put fat on. You cannot get fat on their bones. My neighbor said he tried feeding one, a steer, and he said it came out dry. You know, meaning there wasn't a lot of fat there. Corriente is another really good breed for pasture grazing. There's a couple problems with Corriente that make it less desirable. Number one is the small frame, which some people see that as a minus, but nowadays I think people are waking up to the fact that smaller cows are better cows. Just more efficient altogether, right? The other problem with Corriente is their temper, right? They're known to have a little bit of a temper. They're not the safest animal. They're not the safest breed of cow to be around, okay? The last little note about breeds is the variation within a breed is greater than the variation between the breeds. Okay, so what that means is a good Angus or a good Hereford will do better than a bad South Pole. Does that make sense? Right? So just because you got South Pole doesn't mean that your cows are awesome, they're going to succeed. They have to be good South Pole, right? Now, that said, the best South Pole, or you know, the upper 10% of the South Pole is going to be better than the upper 10% of Angus on pasture, right? So you take the best Angus for pasture, the best South Pole for pasture, and you're going to see the South Pole do better, right? And that's what people are looking at. They're trying to breed the best, right? They're trying to get the best kind of cows they can get adapted to their pasture the best way. And so whatever you do, you have to use a breeding program where you're getting rid of the bad cows and you're keeping the best, and you're bringing in new genetics to experiment and see what happens, right? So that's what I'm doing with my South Pole, you know. But number 10 is a keeper. Probably red. My wife says, are red's horns getting bigger? I'm like, yes, those horns keep growing. Let me show you red. Here's a good old big red. She's a big one, but she's got some nice conditioning. You know, for her breed, she's doing really well. There's a couple others that I want to keep. And keep them for a while, you know, breed them for a couple years, and then maybe I'll let them go if the offspring do better. Right. Anyway, beautiful morning, fantastic morning. I'm wearing a coat because it is cold, but the forecast 75 degrees today, 75 degrees tomorrow, 77, 70, and then 70, and then 72, and then 68. Okay, so we're getting summer weather. The nighttime is down to 56, so that's what I would call sweatshirt weather, right? If it's 56 outside, you probably just need a sweatshirt or a jacket. You'll be fine. Here comes number 48 to say hi. Good morning, 48. I'll let you approach. I'm not going to approach you. I don't want to scare you off. I'm harmless. I'm completely harmless. I'm not going to eat you. Maybe your brothers, but not you. Or your cousins, rather. Anyway, beautiful morning. Fantastic morning. Everybody have a great day. Have a blessed day. Take care and bye-bye.